Good day, podcast community. Pete Kane here, Podcast Pete, and certified high performance coach. We got a special guest on. Now, when we talk hospice and when we talk demands on our schedule and serving with a heart, I want you to lean into our guest because she lives it every day. She's supporting and helping our community, and we want to get a little bit into her journey, her story. So, Rihanna, would you introduce yourself to our community, who you are, what you do, and who you serve?
Well, hello, folks. My name is Redonna Branton, and I am a respiratory therapist, but I serve as the community liaison here at Transitions Hospice. We are a veteran owned and operated company, having been in business since 2003. Both of our owners were veterans, attended West Point, and so once they hit retirement age, they had dabbled a little bit in their profession with hospice and felt like this was something that they wanted to continue doing to be able to help and serve those folks that when life mattered most, we could be there to help.
So as that community liaison, what is a typical day like in your world?
Well, it depends upon the day. I do anything from being involved in community events such as the We Care Vet Fair. We do senior events where we have senior days at fairs or senior expos. We also are involved at our assisted livings, nursing homes, and memory cares and personal care homes where we do activities, where it be bingo, trivia, butterbean auction. We get out to the senior centers. We do church talks. One of the things that we are just starting doing is at the libraries having do a veteran coffee program, just a chance for them to mingle and interact, involved with some of the local libraries. We also have a We Honors Veterans program that we work through to obtain stars, and we do different things for our veterans through that. A lot of people think because we're veteran owned, we only take care of veterans, but we take care of everybody. Veterans are one of the folks that we do take care of. Since our owners were veterans, but we do take care of all patients, regardless of being a veteran or not. The way hospice works, a lot of people hear the word hospice and become very afraid, and it's understandable. So many times I hear, oh, yeah, they called hospice and they come in and gave mama the shot and she was gone in a day. Well, first off with that, we don't give shots most of the time. And secondly, there are times when we do have to do things and our patients do pass quickly, but those are few and far between. Our philosophy of care for our folks is we want our patients to be happy, healthy, and comfortable until that time comes. We strongly believe that there's only one man that knows, and he doesn't tell us. We can't stop the decline. We can't stop the changes. We can't cure whatever condition they have, but we can keep them comfortable, as healthy as possible, and happy to be able to spend that time with their family and loved ones as long as possible. We often tell our patients and our families, yes, the patients, we're there for them, but we're also there for our families too. I've experienced hospice on a personal level with family members, neighbors, and that sort of thing. And it's just a great resource to have, to be able to have that backup. I know from a personal standpoint, my grandfather was on hospice. And we worked keeping him at home as long as we could, me and my sister helping care for him. And I had went out of town, and we had made some changes with how we were doing his medication when he moved into assisted living. And of course, he was my patient here at hospice. And thank goodness he was, because I had gotten pretty far south in my weekend getaway, and I get a call from the assisted living that they can't do what was needed to be changed. And so luckily my hospice family was right there and they were able to take care of it. I need you to hold on 1 second.
Okay, no problem. And, I think while Redonna is taking a call, because it is very There's no typical day like she shared. And when people are calling the hospital, a senior center, a senior living place, you can't just, I'll get back to you whenever. So it's a very demanding, and we'll talk about really what it takes, because every single day you are in a position where you have to take care of something that happens now. Not, you can't just, well, I'll call back that person whenever. So you're seeing live, what demands are on companies like Redonna in transition is that it's very typical to, have things that come up, and you have to be in a position to take care of these wonderful people that are in situations that they're helping to provide in the services they provide. So we'll when she gets back, we'll talk more. But yes, it's no problem. Don't worry one bit. We'll be here, and I'm going to put up on the screen. So when we'll do this at the end too. But this is how you can get a hold of Transitions Hospice, because hospice is a special place that allows our senior living and our community to get that assistance that they need. So a lot of times understanding what they do and how they do it is just getting some education and finding out, asking the questions. So you're welcome to put questions in the comments. That way you can be well versed into how they can serve in your family, your community, and the area that you work in. So I'm going to take this off right now, and we'll be back in just a second. But We Cares, we just finished the expo, and this is where I met Redonna. And so I wanted to bring as many of the people that were at the expo to help you continue the conversation of getting education, because education allows you to know how they can serve you. And so we're going to be digging into and asking questions about how they serve. And that way you can know, if you're out there, please share this with people that you think need to know what's going on. Here we go. She's back. All right.
I apologize.
Yes. It's just a living example of that when people need assistance, they need it now. They can't wait till tomorrow.
Exactly. Tomorrow's not a guarantee.
No.
So the way hospice works is, like I said, I was so thankful in my personal experience that I had my work hospice family to take care of those needs that were needed for my grandfather while I was out of town for just a couple of days. So like I said, we service patients wherever home is, whether it be their home, their children's home, whether it be assisted living, memory care, nursing home, wherever home is. We are even able to take care of the homeless. We have to make arrangements and work things out, but we are even able to take care of the homeless. So what happens is with hospice is Medicare covers hospice 100%. That means they never get a bill. With hospice, they get nursing visits. With those nursing visits, they get at least 2 to 3 times a week. And with those visits, meds are checked, skin's checked, vital signs are checked. If a patient has what appears to be a respiratory infection or a UTI, we're not dragging them to the doctor to get a chest x-ray or to go TT in a cup. We're just going to go ahead and treat it. We take care of conditions that qualify them for hospice. With those conditions, that means that there are no cure and they are not seeking curative measures anymore. So the nurse takes care of monitoring those signs and symptoms. We look for changes and that sort of thing. They also are able to get what's called a CNA. A CNA is a certified nursing assistant. They come out and help them with their grooming, whether it's being a standby just to make sure that they are safe, or whether they need a little help. Maybe they can't reach to wash their back, or they don't feel like shaving that day or something like that. Or if they're in a bed and need a bed bath, the CNAs are able to help take care of that, cleaning up their personal area, changing sheets and that sort of thing. Then we have also our social worker. Our social worker is available to see if there are any community resources that are available. Those community resources can be where if they needing help finding veterans benefits,
Mm-hmm.
whether they're needing aid and assist, whether they're needing meals, uh, hearing aids, any type of medical equipment. We work to supply all of that. They're also there to see if there's any like programs that they may benefit from. We've helped get ramps built. We've helped to try to find uh, replacement for air conditioning and things like that, looking at different resources and programs that are around. We also have our chaplain. Our chaplain is there for spiritual support. He is also there for the bereavement process. We follow our patients' families 13 months after passing. And with that 13 months, they get a follow up if they choose to receive the bereavement process from our chaplain. Some people want that, some people don't. Um, they just decline that.
Mm-hmm.
We also have our volunteer program, and that is where if the caregiver is needing to go to the doctor or just have a break, or if our patient is just tired of the same caregiver and they need a break, it gives someone else to interact with, visit with, talk with, sing with. They're not there to clean house or anything like that. They're
Mm-hmm.
there just for pure social enjoyment for the patient and their caregiver. We're always looking for volunteers. So if there's anyone who sees this would like to be a volunteer, we would love the opportunity. They can just call the office or also look at our website. Within hospice, a lot of people think, well, what all do you cover? I told you about our services, but we also cover medical equipment. All of our patients receive oxygen and suction on admission. The reason we do that is we had rather it be there and not need it than it be 2 o'clock in the morning and us need it and can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So that is what we do. We take care of incontinence supplies, whether it be diapers, briefs, um, pads to go under them, wipes, gloves, lotions, body wash, all those personal care needs. We take care of those as well. If they need help finding care for animals, we don't come out and walk their dog or clean the kitty litter, but if we need to help find new rehome, we've done that as well.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people don't realize a lot of things that you kind of get, I don't want to say stuck with, but you walk into situations in need. One of my stories, and I've told this when we did our planning for the We Care Vet Fair, they wanted to know my why. Why did we do what we did? Why were we doing what we do? And
Mm-hmm.
I had a little man, and he is my why. Uh, he's my Mr. Rod. He unfortunately is no longer with us anymore. But Mr. Rod had nobody. He had no family whatsoever. He lived at a senior housing apartment group, and we were there doing activities and talking with the folks. And the site manager said, I've got a man that needs somebody. Not sure if you can help him or not, but let's see. So I went up and talked to him, and we talked a while and just kind of chit chatted. And so he told me about some of his health problems and things. Now, he's a veteran, served 20 something years, lived alone, no family, and his apartment was to a T, but there was nothing in it. He had a lounge chair to sit in. He
Mm-hmm.
had a mattress and box springs on the floor, just bare minimum. So I asked him who his doctor was, got his doctor, who his information was, and it ended up I knew the physician pretty well. And I went and talked to him about my Mr. Rod. He said, if you think you can help him, go for it. So we got there and he agreed, and we signed him up to be our patient. And he would go across the street to a store
Mm-hmm.
and sit and play the ding ding machines. Well, they would take a check. And so it ended up his rent checks started bouncing. And so he was on the verge of being evicted. After talking with him, we worked it out with the site manager, gave him gave him an allowance, and just kind of oversaw his situation,
Mm.
where he wouldn't be. He started having falls, becoming very weak. So, talked to him about relocating to a personal care home. We worked to get his veterans benefits started, and he moved into a personal care home, had a roommate. Next thing, he moved into a room that he was by himself because he got some of his benefits. Finally, he got all of his benefits, and he had the big penthouse room on the end. And he ended up having COVID. I was able to get into the hospital to see him because he was my patient, so he was not there to be alone.
Mhm.
And he had some dementia going on, and he kept telling me that President Clinton had sent him money. Well, that was when everybody got the stimulus dollars. Well, we went ahead and talked, and he wanted to be placed at Arlington. Well, that was not to be happen, but we did get him placed at the National Cemetery in Canton, Georgia.
Mhm.
Went ahead and paid for his cremation and had everything done with his money that President Clinton sent him. And, he just needed somebody to kind of hold his hand and guide him. So I was able to get his ashes picked up. And it was not till after he passed that I was going through his cell phone multiple times. And
Mhm.
I finally found a number that said sister. And
Mm.
called it multiple times. And finally, she called me back. And they had been estranged for years. And she told me stories that he had never shared with me. He had shared a lot of things, but
Mhm.
she shared, and it was a lot. It was very eye opening for the life that he lived.
Mm.
And so she asked me, "What have you done with everything?" And I said, "Well, I actually have his remains in my office because it had already ran in the paper and everything, and nobody responded. And so I said, we have an appointment for him to be placed at the National Cemetery next week." And she said, "I'll be there."
Hmm.
And
Wow.
so um, we were able to get everything arranged, and he had his service, and she was able to get his flag. But still, he had nobody. He didn't have a car. He didn't drive. He rode the bus around town just to see what was going on.
Mm.
And he always called me the kid. That was what he called me, was the kid.
Mm.
And one time we were out at Walmart. He wanted to get the girls at the assisted living something for Christmas. So
Mhm.
I suggested a big box of candy and cookies. And, "Well, I need to buy you something." I said, "No, you don't need to buy me anything." And he just kept on. And, "What about a watch? What about?" And I said, "No." I said, "What about a Christmas cactus?" So I still have the Christmas cactus to this day, but I love plants, but sometimes they don't like me. And
Yeah.
so one day the Christmas cactus was just looking really rough. And I said, "Mr. Rod, what are you trying to tell me?" And so there's a lady I know that has a wonderful green thumb with Christmas cactus. So I made a picture of it and sent it to her, and she wrote me back, "Water it, drowned it." And I was like, "A cactus?" So I did. And it's just like it perked all up. And I was like,
Wow.
"You were trying to tell me you were thirsty, Rod."
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
but
that's
in my office, I
yeah.
have his hat hanging, and I have his picture. Um, it hangs in my office. He's my little man that I took care of. So
Yeah.
he is my why, because he had, what we thought was totally nobody, and come to find out at the end, he did have a sister, and they had just been estranged for years. And that's,
That's precious. Yeah.
he had never shared that with
Yeah.
me. He just said he had lost touch with all family and didn't know where they were.
Wow.
So,
You can see how that's a strong why. When you got into what you're doing, what motivated you to make that step to find people like Mr. Rod?
well, the way I feel I was very fortunate and blessed as a child growing up. I
Hmm.
lived right close to my grandparents. I lived right close to my great grandparents. And it was just, we always just took care. That's just what you did. Family took care of family. If the neighbor down the road needed something, you went and took care of them too. And
Yeah.
that's just how I was raised. And I am often and so many times in awe of the people that have nobody or that have families that don't step up. And it's it's becoming more the common thing than what I used to feel like it was an odd thing, because that's how my family always did things. And so it's, I want everybody to experience what I had, to know that they're loved and taken care of. And, birth and death are two of the most important times in someone's life. You
Hmm.
know, I, I have grandchildren, and most recently one was born last Friday. And so, we're rushing. We can't wait to hold them, love on them, and all those things, and make sure that they feel loved and cared for. Yes, there's the point, the dash. So there's a lot that happens between birth and death.
Hmm.
And still, when someone's laying there in their final moments, they don't deserve to be in pain. They don't deserve to be, uncared for. They don't deserve to be dirty. They deserve to be cared for and loved, and have dignity. And that's what we really try to do for everyone. Um,
Hmm.
and make sure that they have that peaceful moment as they pass.
Ooh, that's so sweet. What I want to get? I love veteran-owned businesses. What does it mean to work with a veteran-owned business? Have you worked with other businesses, or have you always been involved with
Now,
veteran
I
business?
have I have worked corporately where we were not a veteran-owned business, and this, and what's so ironic about this, it wasn't until talking with one of our owners one day, and he didn't act like it was. I don't want to say, he just didn't act like it was a big deal, and I'm like, but it is a big deal. It is a big deal. We need to let people know about this. And so we kind of started not trying to use it as a sales pitch, but let it people know that, we had folks that had served our country, that wanted to help care for others.
Mm-hmm.
And, a lot of people think that, like I said, they hear hospice and become very afraid. And to have to have met to meet our owners, and to see how, I mean, people say, well, how do y'all work with y'all not being corporate and that sort of thing? And I'm like, look, all I got to make sure is our patient is taken care of. If I do that, I know that everything is fine. A lot of people think, well, I have to elevate this to my manager, and they'll have to elevate it to the VP. No, we don't have all those steps. I know what I got to do. I got to take care of that patient, because if it comes back that that patient missed something or didn't get what they needed, why didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a gentleman now who, ironically, he is a veteran. He needs a ramp. We're working to get, we've got several contacts we're working on to have a ramp built. We had a heating and air conditioning company go out and do an assessment on their heating and air, because it's fixing to get wintertime. So, trying to have contacts of those that can help us help others. It's just what you're supposed to do. Take care of folks.
Well, it's beautiful. Yeah, we want our, I agree with you 100%. Is when you talk to veterans, they don't want the light shining on them, but we want to shine out, because people want to support our veteran-owned businesses because they have sacrificed for us. We want to let people know and shine them out, so they have an option when people are deciding who to be able to support. They want to support our veteran businesses, but if we don't shine out and let them know, then they
Exactly.
don't know what they don't know.
And that's the thing, our owners are so humble about
Yeah,
it. I
yeah.
mean, Mr. Rod, I almost feel bad for telling his story, because, he was so humble about everything. There was one day he was just having a very bad day, and he said, "Kid, I just don't understand how I ended up like this." And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, I have nobody. And I'm like, well, you have me. I'm here to help look after you. You've got our whole team. And I mean, I realize that's a little bit different than having a family and that sort of thing. But at least once a month, I would take him on an outing for lunch, ride him around town and that sort of thing. And there was one day he was like, kid, you know, I did what I was supposed to do. I made my kills, and here I am, barely holding on. You're giving me allowance to live so that I can pay rent. He said, I've not made good choices. And I was like, yeah, you're right. I said, but there's a lot of people that are in that boat. So we just have to do the best and move on. And, I always tried to be his cheerleader, but he's my why. So
Yeah, everybody needs encouragement. And so,
exactly.
when you're encouraging people, it's like it does breathe that love into them. So, what would you say, like on a daily basis, what challenges you? Is there anything that our community can help you with, whether it's the volunteers? I would love you to explain what it means to be a volunteer, because I'm a firm believer if we serve, we live longer. And
Well,
so,
the way a volunteer program works, we take care of doing a background check, and just like they were going to be an employee. And a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to do all that. Well, you have to think about it on the flip side. If strangers were coming to visit you, wouldn't you want to make sure they were checked out? So, I mean, often now we're kind of afraid of the cable guy when they come, so we have to know that everybody's checked out and good. They go through a program with our volunteer coordinator. They're given situations on how to handle different things. I mean, for example, you may get to a home and, the wife says, well, hey, I'm going to run to the grocery store. Well, she goes to the grocery store and she's gone and she's gone and she's gone and she's gone. We want to make sure there's emergency contacts in place if something was to happen with the caregiver, or if they just got out and had a chance and got to talking and didn't realize they'd been gone 3 hours, But so many times, I mean, this is the one thing that our volunteers have to understand. Being that caregiver is the hardest job in the world. You are on 24/7. My dad was also a hospice patient, and my mom, it was the hardest decision in the world for her to decide to do hospice for my dad. So me and my sister talked with her, and finally she agreed. And I said, look, if it's not what you think this is or what you want once they get in here, I said, you can fire them and we can go back to the way things were. My dad was bedbound, and me and my sister took care of him. We're both in the medical field, so taking care of him was it was a bigger deal to him than it was to us, because he would say, my girls aren't supposed to see me like this. And so we did as much as we can to have different caregivers to cover when we could not be there, or to at least help my dad have a little more dignity. But my mom was there 24/7. And I never will forget, there at the end, they had said, oh, at least 7 to 10 days. Well, it just goes to show that no one knows, because my dad ended up lasting 37 days. And for those 37 days, my mama never left the house. And my dad would have hallucinations and that sort of thing. It would be upsetting to her. And, those caregivers that are there around the clock, they need as much support, sometimes more support than what the patients do. So, those are kind of things that we kind of teach those volunteers how to manage, listening, because sometimes the patient may not even know you're there. You're more there for the caregiver. They may not even leave, but it's just a chance for them to see someone different and have someone to talk to besides a TV blaring or looking at the same four walls.
That's so good. Do y'all, just so our community knows, is there areas of the city of Atlanta that y'all serve, and there are the
We
areas?
service from Cobb County to the Georgia-Tennessee line.
Okay.
So we're mostly in Northwest Georgia. So we're from Cobb north.
Oh, that's so good to know. So I want to give just tell our viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
Well,
to
the
be?
best way to get a hold of Transitions Hospice is you can call our office at 706 378 2273. If they happen not to answer, or if it's after hours, our answering service will take care of the call. Also, there is our website that is www.transitionshc.com. And that connects you to our website. And you can also do an info inquiry, look at our website, see if there's anything that interests you. I also have an email address that we could add to this if you wanted to, and they could email me and I could reach back out to them. And I'll type.
We'll do this. We'll do this. We'll put it in the show notes. That
Okay.
way they can get a hold of you. And we always want to encourage our viewers to share this video. If you know people in the area of Cobb and North that could use the services that we have described to you, reach out to them. You can go to the show notes and you can get a hold of them. That way you know the person. I mean, it's a beautiful story. I appreciate you sharing
And
so
even
much.
if we're not sure if they're appropriate for hospice, lots of times it's like putting a puzzle piece together. We may
Yeah.
have to get notes from here, notes from there, do a different evaluation and that sort of thing. So lots of times we have to kind of put things together. They're welcome to reach out and just see if it's, they're not signed into anything until we sign the paperwork. I can do info sessions, talk with different family members as many times as needed. If they're just have questions or are uncertain if they want something they want to check into.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. Redonna, what would you want, the one thing that you would want our viewers to take home from our time on this podcast?
Don't be afraid of hospice. There are those that don't have very good experiences or they don't get the full effect of hospice because it is a very quick stay. But if you get the chance to have hospice, it is a relationship that you're able to have like no other. My dad's been gone 10 years, and the lady who came out as his CNA still reaches out to my mom ever so often and checks on her to see how she is, and the same thing. The same folks that cared for my granddad, the same thing. They're like family now because it's just like they're there when you need someone the most.
Ooh, that is so good. Thank you so much for taking the time to share with our community your journey, your story, and about transitions. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you
Thank
so much for having me, Pete.